So next, I would like to invite Joe Vaughan to the stage, who is the marketing manager for the Museum of English Rural Life. And his presentation is titled Life After X, How Twitter's Favorite Museum Left Twitter. Joe.
Hi, everyone. I've seized the tech. Thank you very much. I hope you like my graphic design. Thank you. Good news, I'm not going to talk about AI. I'm going to talk about something even worse, Twitter. Who here used Twitter before? Who still uses Twitter? Okay, nice, Daddy. We'll have a fight in the car park afterwards. On the topic of seizing the tech, I think this talk will be as much about tech being seized and the attempts to try and wrestle that back when you're a tiny museum with tiny resource and some moderately sized dreams of trying to do the right thing. So this is a quite bold claim, but I think it's true. No museum gained more from Twitter than the Museum of English Rural Life. In case you don't know, the Museum of English Rural Life is a tiny museum in the University of Reading, England's largest town. So don't say you didn't learn anything today. But we had a very big Twitter account. This is less, and none of those people other than Danny even exist today. But at peak, we had about 170,000 followers, which is huge for us given our size. We used Twitter, leveraged social media to reach so many more people than we could ever dream of reaching in person in Reading. And we took lots of creative risks to make the most of the platform's flexibility of social media's potential to bridge our collections to pop culture, to memes, to what today would be called brain rot. And this was the peak of our powers. Look at this absolute unit. So this tweet was by my predecessor at Merle, Adam Kazari, who isn't here today but has come to many of these before. And it completely transformed us. I don't know how to begin talking about it. We're a tiny museum, but that at peak has had digital capacity of 1.5 people. So to have a tweet that got, over, I can't even read what that number says, but before everyone left Twitter, it was like 120,000 likes. So it was massive. This was another big hitter, which was a thread about a chicken wearing some trousers. Could AI make that? We can talk about that later. Twitter won us awards. It put us on the world stage. It changed perceptions of what social media could be in museums. And when I joined the Merle in 2019, the Twitter was very strong. I came in from, I was working in an advertising agency. I dreamed of working in the arts, but saw no way of breaking in. And to this day, people still come to me for advice as a non-museum person, despite being in the sector for 6 years. I was doing lots of content about crisps, and was much happier joining the museum. I joined in 2019 with the job title of digital content manager, so edited all social media, website content. If it was on the internet, I was involved making trouble. But I got promoted in 2020 to the job of keeping the museum going through a global pandemic, because I was in Reading for 6 months and then everything closed. But true to form, within 3 days of the pandemic, Merle went gigaviral, playing Animal Crossing. Because me and my housemate, who also worked at Merle, learned that on the new Animal Crossing game, there was an option for creating clothes. So we shared some of our heritage smocks on Twitter and asked our followers to make their own. And we had hundreds of responses, got featured in world media, and then our curator made an online exhibition of the smocks, which was joyful. One of these includes a smock from the Getty Museum, who went on to do their own Animal Crossing work later on. I think for a lot of people, museum Twitter felt like quite a good time. It was nice having one place rather than a million places, and with little confidence of anyone really being there. I think until you remember how truly terrible Twitter was. Who here is like a social media manager or does social media for your organization? Yeah, so okay. But there's a few people. But I think that the actual experience of working on Twitter was a complete, I mean, I don't know how to frame it really, but it was just, you were exposed to things working on social media that no other colleague gets presented to. I mean, you were working throughout the pandemic, you were exposed to racial violence, all the horrors of COVID. And yet the job is to create nice, interesting content that delights people. There is a real bind. And I think that the joy of Twitter at its peak was, Elon Musk, who I will come on to shortly, when he acquired Twitter, said he was acquiring the town hall of the internet. And I think the joy of Twitter was that it was such a truly horrible town hall. People were doing all kinds of terrible things, but people were trying to have fun at the same time. But yeah, Twitter was bad, and then it got a lot worse. Yeah. He's not in it anymore after this. This is his last slide, by the way. So this marked a new era when Twitter became known as, oh God, why do we continue to use this morally bankrupt, rapidly disintegrating shell of a social media network? They tried X. But we were compelled to stay on Twitter principally because of the size of the audience we had. I put big number go burr, which I think is true. I think for a lot of, in terms of actually audience engagement, but also from a sort of stakeholder management reporting perspective, it's extraordinary to be able to say, we get 50,000, 60,000 people in a year come to visit the museum. In COVID, we had 0 people, and yet online, we're reaching 25 million, or our tweets are getting seen 25 million times per month. And it's very difficult to argue with that, especially when you've got no resource. There have been some beautifully designed slides here today, and I'd like to present my own. There was this repeated cycle of adoption and abandonment, where a Twitter alternative, this is sort of going forward a little bit, but people kept making Twitter rivals, or people saying, oh, let's go to Mastodon, let's go to, I don't know, later Threads, whatever. But you'd go there and your audience wouldn't be there, and then you'd just come back to Twitter, and then you'd try again. And this carried on, actually, for 300 years. Some say it's still happening, but we can chat about that later as well. And in fact, I left the Merle before the Merle left Twitter. I went on my own misadventure into tech, and then I came back a year later to replace my manager who left. So it was a roundabout way of getting a promotion, actually. So all good. But yeah, when I came back a year later, things are like that. I had a new mission. Leave Twitter. But the issue again, so this is last autumn. The issue was that Merle Twitter results remained really, really good. So around the time of Brat, or just after Brat, post-Brat, we did a meme saying, well, you can probably read it. You better than I can. I left my glasses in London. But basically just riffing on a pop culture reference, and it got liked a large number of times. And so, I think we were, thank you so much. So we were going viral on a sinking ship, which is rough. It's rough. Anyway, that was October. Fast forward. Things were getting a lot worse in the US all of a sudden last year. And it's worth saying as well that as we were going viral on Twitter, we were thinking very seriously about what the hell we do with this. We didn't want to be on Twitter, we wanted to be elsewhere. But when you have that kind of massive platform, what do you do with it? But carry on using it to its full effect. But anyway, things got significantly worse because of the Elon Musk and Donald Trump alliance. I mean, Twitter went from re-platforming Trump to being his core ally. Doge was brought up earlier in the amazing keynote. Oh God, I'm back on Elon Musk again. Anyway, this will be the last time. So yeah, Twitter got progressively worse, continuing to sink. And there was just one day where I was having a look. I was sat in the museum cafe, the we have a beautiful garden. I was just sat outside. You should come to the Merle, by the way. You should come. You should come. Thank you so much. I was just sat outside, and I realized that we had 4,000 Blue Sky followers. I'd never used Blue Sky in my life, but we made a holding account, and I realized we had 4,000 followers there we'd never posted. And I just thought, I mean, Merle got to where it is by taking kind of calculated risks, being like, what's something that true Marie Kondo style, what kind of brings joy to our audience, what do people like? So yeah, I figured let's try Blue Sky. We had nothing to lose, we had a lot to gain, and so I went back to the big hitters. And I just posted the absolute unit meme, kind of on on a very informed whim. I was like, if we're going to post anything on Blue Sky that goes well, it will be possibly the biggest tweet in museum history. And within 10 minutes, we had 4,000 likes. And our followers went from 4,000 to 15,000 in about 2 days. And the actual engagement that we had with this tweet was absolutely extraordinary. Some of the actual messages we received. So someone said the world is healing. Someone else said, I feel like the small huddled masses huddling in a safe place, and suddenly the best people start showing up, and they've been so missed, and everyone is cry laughing. Someone else said, Merle hitting us with the classics, now I know this site is good. And then Ned Potter said, the reissuing of this post here on Blue Sky feels like the moment when Neo fully embraces the resistance in the Matrix and things really accelerate from there. And at this point, I realized that not only was Merle a kind of spectator in social media shenanigans, like what's happening with these different platforms, but we're actually like a kind of protagonist and a kind of validator of best practice. You know, it dawned on me the influence that we had. And yeah, another one. We became a main character. And as we grew on Blue Sky, we realized people liked, so we kept doing it. When Blue Sky hit 21 million users, someone said to us, please can you post a hog? So we did. And then as more users came, we grew the hog. And then we even put it on a mug. And we made £15,000 in sales in one day when these came out. We also leveraged some of the Blue Sky platform features to consolidate our leadership, as well as build up other places on the platform. So for anyone who's used Blue Sky, starter packs were a very popular feature where you could basically collate accounts. And so we made a museum and heritage account, art and culture starter pack, consistently grew it, consistently reshared it. And I think I know other museums who got tens of thousands of followers from this list. And we did too, so it really worked. Blue Sky remains pivotal for all the engagement that we do, but more significantly, so does the absolute unit, Sheep, which at some point actually felt more like a weight around our necks, because how many years of people saying, oh, you're the Sheep Museum, does a serious museum want to endure? Well, we realized that actually, with this, we want to endure it forever, because when we went to Blue Sky, people recognized us because of the absolute unit. It kind of was an asset that people recognized, and it became very clear that was kind of our brand at that point. And so we launched a podcast, which is Absolute Units, which we've now done 17 episodes in the last year, and we just had George Monbiot on as a guest. So within a year, we've grown to 70,000 Blue Sky followers, which is half of the Twitch audience built over 15 years. And it wouldn't be a Museum Computer Group slide without a QR code. So I've put my LinkedIn on there in case anyone has any questions. But I just thought I'd end with some concrete tips. One, if you're thinking about platform worth, I think it's the size of the audience you have and the availability of competitors. For us, we could move to Blue Sky because it was valid and it had all the features we needed. We saw that there were people going there. There have been a lot of questions about Instagram, for example, like what do you do with Instagram, with Zuckerberg's political ties as well? I don't know an alternative to Instagram. Experiment. If you launch a social media channel and it doesn't land, well, at least you have the handle. Lean into brand significantly. I think that in this sort of dispersed age of social media, brand is the most significant thing that we have as museums. And finally, that museums legitimize tech. I think we play a major role in making tech feel acceptable because we're seen as authoritative, knowledgeable, and like sage institutions. And I think that's, I'm going to end with a quote from The Traitors season 1, when Alex said, "Heavy is the head that wears the crowd." And I think that's what museums have to reckon with when we think about technology. Anyway, thank you so much.